Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today is an amazing video. I'm so excited about today's video. This is a collection of the most anticipated spring, January, February, March, April, book releases that come under the diverse umbrella. So a disclaimer is that this is diverse for me. So when I'm tracking my reading, 4 of the things that I really look for are authors of color, queer content, as in LGBT plus rep content, originally published outside of the US, and translated, which means not originally in English. So every single one of the books that is on my most anticipated list today has at least one of those diverse qualifications. So I am hyped, I'm fucking ready. Let's get into it. So one that I'm going to put in this video, but I have no clue when it's coming out, it is The Labyrinth by Simon Stalenhag, who is a Swedish writer, and this was originally written in Swedish, so it is translated. So in this Stalenhag world, the entire earth is covered in ruins and ash, and there are the remnants of an otherworldly phenomenon that has ravaged the Earth's atmosphere and forced the survivors deep underground. So we're following 3 people who are exploring and scavenging. It really reminds me of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Winds, like when she's initially scavenging in the ruins, and I'm just like, oh my god, yes. I cannot wait. I really need this in my life. So if anyone knows, please let me know where I can buy it. Now let's get into the monthly releases. First up in January, out the 5th is Persephone Station by Stina Leicht, and this has queer rep. So this says it is a combination of The Mandalorian and Cowboy Bebop. It's a high stakes adventure about a backwater planet station and an owner who owns a bar named Rosie, and the bar caters to a high class of criminals. An angel who is an ex-marine, head of a band of beneficent criminals, and when Angel is hired to do a job for Rosie, things go awry, and I'm just like, that cover, that title, the description of Cowboy Bebop, queer elements, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. I really want this. It's out the 5th. Also out the 5th is The Push by Audrain, who is a Canadian writer. This one is following a mother who really wants to be a great mother to her daughter Violet, but in the thick of motherhood's exhausting early days, Blythe becomes convinced that something is wrong with her daughter. She doesn't behave like most children do. Or is it all in her head? Her husband is telling her it's all in her head, but Blythe thinks something is going on. And I'm just like, ooh, it's giving me, we need to talk about Kevin vibes. It's giving me baby teeth vibes. We know I love an evil child. And I also do like unreliable narrator, especially when it's like a mother situation. So I'm so ready for this. And the rep in here is the Canadian author. Up next is out the 12th. This is Angel of Greenwood by Randi Pink, who is a Black author. So this is a YA novel that is set in Greenwood in Oklahoma during the massacre of 1921. So we're following dual points of view. One is 17-year-old Isaiah Wilson, who seems like a troublemaker, but in reality, he's an avid reader and a poet. And he is a passionate follower of W.E.B. Du Bois. And then the other character is 16-year-old Angel Hill, who is a loner, and everyone thinks she's a goody-goody. But she is the loyal follower of Booker T. Washington, who believes through education and tolerance that Black people should rise slowly and without forced conflict. So although they believe different things, when tragedy strikes, they realize that they have to find a way to work together, and that the enemy isn't amongst themselves, but is coming from outside. So I think it sounds really powerful. The cover is gorgeous, and I also don't know enough about the political theory of Du Bois and Washington, so I need to remedy that, and I'm really looking forward to this one. Out January 19th is one that I wasn't sure I was going to include because I think most people know it's coming out. This is Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor, who is a Nigerian American author. So she is an author of color. And this sounds so good. I'm so ready. Basically, she is the adopted daughter of the Angel of Death. Beware of her, mind her. Death guards her like one of its own. That's all I'm going to tell you. It sounds fabulous. I cannot wait to read this. I love Nnedi Okorafor's imagination so much. And I love like Angel of Death or like Hades, Grim Reaper, anything like that. That's like a retelling. So good. And the last January release is out the 19th as well. This is The Route of Ice and Salt by Jose Luis Zarate. I'm so sorry. And he is a Mexican writer. So this is translated from the Spanish, and this also has queer elements. So it has 4 rep. I think it's all of them. Queer rep, author of color, published outside of America, and translated. Booyah. This is a super, super diverse intersection book. So this sounds awesome. So this is a reimagining of Dracula's voyage to England filled with gothic imagery and queer desire. Stop. Hold on. Can we just be excited, so excited for this? So we are following the captain of the Demeter, but there's something different, there's something wrong about what he is carrying, and he knows that it's Transylvanian soil, and I'm thinking he's going to investigate. And I'm just like, this sounds so good. Why have I never heard of this before I was researching for this video? It is out in January, so I might read it for Merry January because this is absolutely sea-themed. Let's move right along to February. Out the 2nd is The Obsession by Jesse Q. Sutanto, who is Indonesian, and I love a good stalker book that flips things on its head. So nobody knows Delilah like Logan does. Nobody. He learns everything about her, he follows her, and some might say he's a stalker. He prefers the term romantic. But after Logan witnesses Delilah killing her abusive stepfather, he realizes that there's something more about her to discover. His sweet, perfect Delilah isn't so perfect after all. And Delilah knows that she should feel guilty, but all she feels is free. She's so over the men in her life controlling her. Except Logan saw what she did and he won't let her forget it. Delilah is done being the victim, and she refuses to be a character in Logan's twisted fantasy. If Logan won't let her go, she'll make him. I'm just ready. I'm excited. I'm so excited to be here. This is an author of color and also published originally from Indonesia. I'm ready. Love it. Also out the 2nd is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. This is Ancillary Justice meets Red, White, and Royal Blue. So basically this is an arranged marriage which takes place inside of the ruling family, and someone is out to assassinate and hurt people, and they have to work together even though they're suspicious of the other one. And the rep in here is that this is queer, and also Everina Maxwell is an English writer. So awesome. Out February 23rd is A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth, who is a Canadian writer. So this has queer rep, and it's also a Canadian writer. So it says, choose your player. An iron-born half-fae outcast of her royal fae family, a tempestuous fury exiled to earth from the immortal realm and hellbent on revenge. A dutiful fae prince determined to earn his place on the throne, the prince's brooding guardian burdened with a terrible secret. Sounds great already. For centuries, the 8 courts of folk have lived among us, concealed by magic and bound by law to do no harm to humans. This arrangement has long kept peace in the courts until a series of gruesome and ritualistic murders rocks the city of Toronto and threatens to expose fairies to the human world. 4 queer teens, each who hold a key piece of the truth behind these murders, must form a tenuous alliance in their effort to track down the mysterious killer behind these crimes. If they fail, they risk the destruction of the fairy and human worlds alike. If that's not bad enough, there's a war brewing between the mortal and immortal realms, and one of these teens is destined to tip the scales. The question is, which way? Wish them luck, they're going to need it. So not only is the cover amazing, not only does it have queer rep, and it is by a Canadian author, It also has a half fae, a fury, a fae prince, and a brooding guardian, and all 4 of them are queer. And also, so far, out of all the ratings on Goodreads, it has a 4.74. That is insanely high. And the last February release, which I want to tell you about, is at the 23rd. It's Tomorrow They Won't Dare to Murder Us by Joseph Andras, who is a French writer, and this was translated from the French. So this is based on a true story and won the Prix Goncourt for first novel, one of the most prestigious literary awards in France. So, a young revolutionary plants a bomb in a factory on the outskirts of Algiers during the Algerian War. The bomb is timed to explode after work hours so no one will be hurt. However, the authorities have been watching. He is caught, the bomb is defused, and he is tortured, tried in a day, condemned to death, and thrown into a cell awaiting the guillotine. A routine event, perhaps, in a brutal conflict that ended the lives of more than 1 million Muslim Algerians. But what if the militant is a pied noir? What if his lover was a member of the French resistance? What happens to a European who chooses a side of anti-colonialism? So it just says this is based on a true story, and it is vibrantly lyrical and extremely somber, and as well as a masterpiece. I think it sounds amazing, and I don't believe I've ever read anything set during the Algerian War. So I think it sounds very hard-hitting, but also very, very informative. So let's get to March. So the 9th is How Beautiful We Were by Imbolo Mbu, who is from Cameroon, now lives in the US, so this is an author of color. This is set in the fictional African village of Kosawa, and it tells the story of people living in fear amidst environmental degradation wrought by an American oil company. This was one of the books that I was really looking forward to reading last year, and they are re-releasing this with a new cover this year in March, so I'm really looking forward to it. So next up is also out the 9th. This is Fragile Remedy by Maria Ingrande Mora. This one I was really excited to read last year, but the date got pushed back for release, and this has queer rep in it. So it says, 16-year-old Nate is a gem, genetically engineered medi tissue created by scientists of Gathos City as a cure for the elite from the fatal lung rot ravaging the population. As a child, he was smuggled out of the lab and into the Withers, a quarantined, lawless region. Nate manages to survive by using his engineering skills to become a tinker, fixing broken tech in exchange for food or a safe place to sleep. When he meets Reed, a kind and fiercely protective boy that makes his heart race, and his misfit gang of scavengers, Nate finds the family he's always longed for, even if he can't risk telling them what he is. We've got human AI, we've got queer love, we've got found family, we've got genetically modified things, we've got a gorgeous cover, we've got queer rep, and we've got high ratings. It has a 4.41. What more could you want? Sounds amazing. Next up is Redder Days by Sue Rainsford. This is out the 11th. Sue Rainsford wrote Follow Me to Ground, which was super weird. It definitely made my top 15 weird and dark books of the year. Check that video out if you haven't already. I'll leave the links down below. This is about twins, Anna and Adam, who live in an abandoned commune in a volatile landscape where they prepare for a world-ending event they believe is imminent. Adam keeps watch by day, Anna keeps watch by night. They only meet at dusk and dawn. Their only companion is Cone, the commune's former leader, who still exerts malignant control over their daily rituals. But when one of the previous inhabitants returns, everything Anna and Adam thought they knew to be true is thrown into question. I love a good cult novel, and I really love Sue Rainsford's writing style and her imagination. I'm so ready. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be weird. Oh, and the rep in here is that Sue Rainsford is an Irish writer. Out the 16th is Skyward Inn by Elia Whiteley. So this sounds great. It follows Skyward Inn on the moorlands of the Western Protectorate. This is a small area removed from modern technology and politics. Theirs is a quiet life. The Protectorate has stood apart from the coalition of world powers that has formed. Instead, the inhabitants choose to live simply, many of them farming by day and drinking the local brew at night. Skyward Inn is Jamaica Inn by way of Ursula Le Guin, bringing the influences too of Angela Carter, Michelle Faber, and Jeff Vandermeer to create a fantastic story of love, belonging, and togetherness. Wow, sounds so good. For some reason, I'm getting quiet space vibes, like very Becky Chambers-ish vibes, where it's a character study in space. I'm really ready. I think it's gonna be great, sounds great. And the rep in here is that Whiteley is an English author. And next up, out the 19th, is one of the ones that I'm most excited for on this list, even though I'm excited for all of them, but this one, like, especially excited for. This is In the Garden of Spite by Camilla Bruce, who is a Norwegian writer who writes in English. So this is a novel about the most prolific female serial killer in American history and the men who drove her to it. So it says, they whisper about her in Chicago. Men come to see her with their hopes, their dreams, their fortunes. But no one sees them leave. No one sees them at all after they come to call on the widow of Laporte. The good people of Indiana may have their suspicions. But if those fools knew what she'd given up, what was taken from her, how she'd suffered, surely they'd understand. Belle Gunness learned a long time ago that a woman has to make her own way in the world. That's all it is. A bloody means to an end, a glorious enterprise meant to raise her from the bleak, colorless drudgery of her childhood to the life she deserved. After all, vermin always survive. Sounds so good. And like the reviews in here just make me want to read it even more. Like it says, I think after finishing this book, I will eventually suffer from nightmares at least for a month. It was mad, gruesome, dark, violent, extremely terrifying, disturbing, blood-freezing, classic horror combinations of hair splitter, nerve bender, nail biter. A great read. It just sounds amazing. I love, like, dark Scorpio serial killers. That's what this sounds like to me. Next up, I'm not going to talk too much about because I think that a lot of people do already know about this one. This is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas. This is out the 23rd. As you may or may not know, Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas was my favorite book of 2020. Writing style, amazing. Character building, amazing. Just like world building, phenomenal. Just all the feels in the world. So this is a queer retelling of the Peter Pan story, and I'm so ready. I'm so ready. I will read everything Aidan Thomas ever writes from now on into infinity. And the last March release is one that looks so good. I'm drooling and dying at the same time. This is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, an author of color and also queer rep. So it says, Terrain is a soldier, stolen as a child and raised to kill and die for the Empire. Her only loyalty is to her fellow conscripts. But now her company has been sent back to her homeland to stop a rebellion, and the ties of blood may be stronger than she thought. Luca needs a turncoat, someone desperate enough to tiptoe the bayonet's edge between treason and orders, someone who can sway the rebels toward peace while Luca focuses on what really matters, getting her uncle off her throne. Through assassinations and massacres, in bedrooms and war rooms, Terrain and Luca will haggle over the price of a nation, but some things aren't for sale. Sounds so good. It reminds me a lot of the Trader Baru Cormorant, only instead of economic play, this is more sword play. And I'm so ready. It looks so good, sounds so good. And the ratings are also really high. Right now they're 4.24, so wow. Okay, so we are to the last spring month, April, and I have 4 left to talk about. So let's talk about Malice, which is out the 13th by Heather Walter. So this has queer rep, and I'm really excited about it. Clearly, it's an FF retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and we all need it in our life. Like, let's just agree that we all need it, and we should all read it. All right, next up is out the 20th. This is Heaven by Mieko Kawakami, who is a Japanese writer. So this was translated from the Japanese. And this is following a 14-year-old boy at school who is being bullied for having a lazy eye. So this has been hailed as, new literary territory in Japan for taking on the subject of school bullying, which is quite prominent but little talked about. I'm very intrigued by it. I'm waiting to see more reviews though, because I know that the author got in a little bit of hot water before for having a transphobic passage in Breasts and Eggs. So I'm waiting to see what people think before I put my money towards this specific author. The penultimate release that I'm very excited for is In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens. So the rep in here is that it is queer. So this is a young prince must rely on a mysterious stranger to save him when he is kidnapped during his coming of age tour. in a swoony adventure on the high seas. So I am ready. This sounds like everything I want and more. I love the cover. We have, I bet, like a pirate thief and then also like a young gentleman. I do think that it looks very saccharine, but I'm ready for that. I need some lightness in my life, and queer rep is everything. I love it so much. Also, I just love the cover so much. Like, look at it. Oh, the little babies. Yeah, so I'm really excited about this one. And let's move on to my last most anticipated release. So this is out the 22nd. This is Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura, who is a Japanese writer. And this has been receiving rave reviews in Japan. It says 500,000 copies sold, winner of the Japan Booksellers Award, and convenience store woman with a fantasy twist, exploring mental health and anxiety issues in modern day Japan. So it says it follows 7 students who are avoiding going to school, hiding in their rooms instead, unable to face their family and friends, until they discover a portal to another world that offers them temporary escape from their stressful lives. Passing through the glowing mirror, they gather in a magnificent castle, which becomes their playground and refuge during school hours. And then they go on adventures. So I think it sounds really excellent. I do think it does sound very Alice in Wonderland, which is no bad thing. I love it. I do think it sounds really interesting, and I can't remember the last time I read a portal fantasy, so I'm really looking forward to this. I also think the cover is really adorable, and the title is just wonderful. So that finishes up all of my most anticipated spring releases that have diverse elements in them. Please let me know any diverse books you're looking forward to, specifically authors of color, queer content, published outside of the US or translated. I am really trying to diversify my reading in 2021, and I hope that you are doing a little bit too. So without further ado, I will chat to you in another video soon. Thank you so much for watching. Lots of love. Bye!